Hello and welcome you with NDTV. I'm Vedant Agarwal. Well, on day 7 of the Israel-Hamas war, a ground invasion on Gaza seems imminent, pushing over 1 million residents of Gaza into a precipice. Well, with Israel's 24-hour ultimatum, residents of Gaza have already begun moving towards the south as Israeli tankers and heavy armed vehicles, as you can see in those visuals, have started rolling towards the north of blockaded Gaza. Well, NDTV's Kadambini Sharma and Uma Shankar Singh have made their way to the epicenter of the war, reporting from the front lines of the battlefield in what now seems a full-blown offensive, perhaps the deadliest in the long and bloody history of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Take a look at this exceptionally brave reporting on the battlefield.
This humming is the humming of war. This humming is not a humming of peace.
यहाँ से लगातार गोले दागे जा रहे हैं गाजा पट्टी की तरफ, और हमें कहा गया है कि हम सड़क के दूसरी तरफ चले जाएं क्योंकि ओके अदर साइड ऑफ द रोड ये आकर हमें कहा गया है। और यहाँ से लगातार जो फायरिंग है, आर्टिलरी जो शेलिंग है, वो गजा की तरफ किया जा रहा है। तो हम इनकी नसीहत को मानते हुए सड़क के दूसरी तरफ जाते हैं और फ्रंट लाइन से हम आपके लिए NDTV और NDTV इंडिया पर रिपोर्ट लेकर आते रहेंगे। गजा पट्टी और इजराइल के बीच का जो इलाका है, जहाँ पे इतनी बड़ी तैनाती हुई है, इस इलाके से।
This is the forward area where we are at the moment, and just beyond this is Gaza. So these are the areas which are really out of bound for most people. They have been allowing media for some time, but it may be a matter of hours when this is closed for everyone, because the surrounding towns have been evacuated. If you look at this area, this is the agricultural fields. Now you can understand the whole topography, how the Hamas managed to get inside, Hamas terrorists managed to get inside Israel. Now this area has now been fortified. There are bunkers, there are firing positions which are here, and this is just one of them. The whole area is now like this. The calm has been broken. The feeling of peace has been broken. And as far as you can see, the roads behind, there are military vehicles everywhere, armored vehicles everywhere, light infantry, tanks, everything. This is the preparation which Israel has done. This is the preparation. This is an announcement that Israel will not back off. Retaliation has to be there. That is what Israel feels. It has promised, the leaders have promised to wipe out Hamas. Civilians in Gaza have been given, just beyond this, they have been given some time, around 24 hours, few hours have passed, to move to southern Gaza, away from these active battle lines. The expectation is that Israel might go all out and launch a ground assault, not only to wipe out Hamas, but also to free the hostages who are being held there. Dust fills the sky when these tanks pass. This was once an area where agriculture happened. These are agricultural fields, but today there are tanks rolling all over here. This is what has happened and what has changed since Saturday, when Hamas terrorists entered these areas and massacred so many civilians. The situation has changed drastically. The peace which was expected is not here. The calm which was supposed to be here, which was thought to be permanent, is just not here. Now it's tanks, it's army, and this is the situation which might escalate any moment. In southern Israel, near Gaza Strip, Kadambini Sharma for NDTV.
Well, absolutely unprecedented there. But moving now to what is really a defining image and perhaps a frightening one as well. Thousands of Gaza residents have begun to flee with mattresses strapped onto their cars. For over 1 million residents of blockaded Gaza, there's nowhere to go and little to hold on to. Well, the UN says Israel's move will have a devastating impact on Gaza, calling Israel's ultimatum to relocate within 24 hours horrendous. Take a look at this.
After intense bombings by Israel in Gaza, a deep humanitarian crisis is unfolding there as Israeli blockage has caused a severe shortage of essential supplies, especially food, water and water supply. In a tweet, the UN Agencies for Palestine Refugee warned that, and I quote, "The call from Israeli forces to move more than 1 million civilians living in northern Gaza within 24 hours is horrendous. This will only lead to unprecedented levels of misery and further push people in Gaza into an abyss," unquote. According to the United Nations, humanitarian crisis in Gaza, more than 340,000 Palestinians have been displaced so far. Around 220,000 Palestinians have taken shelter in 92 schools run by the UN Agency for Palestine Refugees. The hospitals are overstretched as large number of injured Palestinians are being admitted who need urgent medical care.
The local health system is stretched and underfunded. And given this unprecedented level of violence, we see that the influx of patients is non-stop in our health facilities.
The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says the situation in the Gaza Strip continues to unfold rapidly and the ongoing hostilities have resulted in grave humanitarian consequences. In a tweet it said the relief agencies require $294 million to address the most urgent needs of 1.3 million people in the occupied Palestinian territory. Questions are also being raised about the safety and security of medical aid and humanitarian workers. So far, 12 workers at the UN Agency for Palestine Refugees have been killed since October 7th when the war started.
We want respect for health facilities, health workers and vehicles. In last few days we have experienced that ambulances have been hit, our hospitals have been impacted. We want health facilities to be respected. Health should not be a target.
NDTV Bureau Report.
So, well, millions of Gazans have nowhere to go, and this includes women and children. But the world has its eyes on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as he leads Israel in this ongoing war. Netanyahu's image is that of a tough leader who leaves no stone unturned in strengthening Israel's security. But he also faces the heat for what many say is perhaps the biggest intelligence failure in Israel's history.
Israel is at war. We didn't want this war. It was forced upon us in the most brutal and savage way. But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declaring a state of war against Hamas in response to Saturday's attack on Israel. Netanyahu, better known as Bibi, is known for his hawkish attitude when it comes to securing Israel. He began his political career in 1993 when he was elected the chairman of the Likud party. He led the opposition till 1996 when he beat Shimon Peres and became the youngest prime minister of Israel. Netanyahu has been the prime minister 3 times since, covering a span of 16 years. He is Israel's longest tenured prime minister. Experts say Netanyahu's biggest strength is his Mr. Security image. But this image has been shaken by the latest developments. Netanyahu is the first prime minister born after Israel declared independence in May 1948. Benjamin Netanyahu was born on the 21st of October 1949 in a Jewish family in Tel Aviv. He spent his childhood first in Tel Aviv and then in Philadelphia. He returned to Israel in 1967 and joined the Israeli army. He left the army after reaching the rank of captain. He went to America and completed his studies at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He joined an American company as an economic consultant. He then returned to Israel in 1978. and founded the Jonathan Netanyahu Anti-Terrorism Institute in his brother's memory. He also served as Israel's permanent representative to the UN from 1984 to 1988. Netanyahu has also been credited for taking steps for economic reforms in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu has carefully cultivated an image of a leader who puts Israel first. He is accused of paying little attention to resolving the long-standing Israel-Palestine conflict that has deep religious and historical origins. Saturday's Hamas attack is a throwback to the last time Israel faced an intelligence failure of this magnitude in 1950. The question is, how will King Bibi regain lost ground? With Prashant in New Delhi, Bureau Report, NDTV. And the other big headline, well, it's the NDTV World exclusive with former US National Security Advisor John Bolton, and he says a ground incursion is likely in the next 48 hours. He says Hamas is daring Israelis to come in. Listen to this interview.
Ambassador Bolton, really appreciate your time. Over 20 US nationals killed and around 20 held hostage by Hamas. Is the US now directly involved in the release of the hostages?
Well, I think right now the effort is diplomatic. I think Secretary of State Blinken is trying to see if some of the Gulf Arab states can persuade Hamas to release the U.S. hostages, but really all the hostages that they've taken, which could be as many as 150. I don't expect that effort to succeed. I think it was clearly part of the Hamas agenda to take hostages, to use them as bargaining chips. But I don't think there's much more time for diplomacy. I think Israeli troops are deployed around the Gaza Strip. And I think it's entirely possible that a land attack in response to what happened last Saturday could begin within 24 or 48 hours.
So extremely significant there. What he said, this as a situation on the ground is extremely unprecedented. But in what is some silver lining for Indians in Israel, the first charter flight under Operation Ajay brought back nearly 250 Indians back home. All of them safe, and most of them were students. Now, they recount the horror of living close to the war zone for almost a week. But as they arrived in India today, there was tears of joy, a sigh of relief, but overwhelmed Indian students say their thoughts are still with those in war.
Off, and hearing that my Israeli friends, peers, their brothers, sisters were on border, it was very devastating. We were happy, but we were not fully happy because we know there is still war going on, and we really want this to end totally, and just everyone be happy and safe, and let's hope for the best.
On the Saturday morning when the first attack came, I was at the Rehoboth region, just close to in the central Israel. So I was just sleeping in the morning, and suddenly the alarm raised, and I was just at the first moment I did not recognize what is really happening because we are not accounted with all.
It's a very nice feeling, but at the same time, I've been in Israel for 1.5 years, and they were like my second family. But I just hope that my friends there are fine.
I have a very close friend who is in war right now, and I really hope that he's safe and sound. We don't need war in this world. Yes. We have enough of it already. So I hope for peace.
They emailed us that this is the link, you have to fill the Google form, fill in all your details, and then they only emailed us that, okay, your seat is confirmed and you have to board. These are the instructions and all that. So we people actually contacted them, but it was their initiative, and most of the time it was their initiative, only they come to us.
don't need a war, is what the resounding message there was. Hopefully all 18,000 Indians will return home safely. We'll take a short break now. There's more news on the other side. Welcome back. Amid the huge diplomatic row between India and Canada, reports now of Canada sheltering another Khalistani sympathizer. Well, this as a Canadian tribunal has now allowed citizenship to Khalistani supporter Kamaljeet. Well, questions continue to be raised on how Canada is becoming a safe haven for Khalistani extremists. Neeta has this report.
Even as tensions are quite high between India and Canada, Canada has given citizenship to a Sikh man, Kamaljeet Ram. Kamaljeet Ram had appealed to Immigration and Refugee Board saying that he should be granted citizenship of Canada. However, the thing that had worked in his favor was that the court held that under the circumstances he had no other option other than to give shelter. He himself in fact had admitted before the board that between the period of 1982 to 1992, he had given aid, shelter and also food to Khalistani terrorists. That was the period, that was the decade, but that was the time between 1982 to 1992 when tensions were all-time high between Hindus and Sikhs. It is then that these incidents had taken place. However, the court ruled in favor of Kamaljeet Ram. The tensions, however, between both the two countries are still quite high. These reached all-time high when, another wanted criminal, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, was killed in Surrey. That time also the Canadian government had blamed Indian authorities and had said that government agents were behind that killing. However, India had declined, saying that Canada has given no evidence. Since then, the tensions were quite high between both the countries. In fact, both the countries had called back their diplomats. In fact, India had also given a list of 41 diplomats to Canada, asking them to withdraw them. Otherwise, the diplomatic immunity which is being provided to them would not be provided to them. However, the deadline which India had given, that was of October 10th, has lapsed, and now also those diplomats are here in India, which indicates that the back channel talks going on between both the countries are quite fruitful and are getting results. In New Delhi, this is Neeta Sharma reporting for NDTV.
So, well, that diplomatic stalemate there continues. But moving now to what is the Clash of Titans. Well, the most hyped match of the arch rivals will be played at the Narendra Modi Stadium on Saturday. And India will be taking on Pakistan for the third time this year and the first time in the World Cup. Well, Pakistan has played against India 7 times on the World Cup stage and all matches were won by India. But on Saturday, a fresh start and the chance for players from either side of the border to become heroes. Now, this is what the captain had said earlier. Rohit Sharma said that there's 99% probability that Shubman Gill will play in the match. So all eyes on that big clash on Saturday. That's all the time that we have on this bulletin. Good night.